If I jump back into the AutoRig builder, we can see that we have pretty much a finished rig. But one thing I would like to do is style the controls a little bit because there's a couple of issues. For instance, we have overlapping controls down here. I don't like the shape of the PV controls. So typically the way that you would fix this is you would throw down a configure controls underneath the AutoRig builder. But what's nice here is that you can actually configure your controls directly in the viewport. So let's go ahead and take care of that. If I press O, I'll enter into this kind of, I guess you can call it a configuration control state within the AutoRig builder. So now I can actually go in and select my controls. For instance, I'm going to select the ARM FK controls, and I'm going to scale these up. Okay, so now they're a little bit easier to select. And if I press O, I'll exit the state and I'll jump back into FK mode. And now my FK controls are easier to select. Now, if I want to go back to the original configuration, I can go to this post-process tab here. And where it says apply manual shape edits, I can just hit this little broom icon and it'll set everything back to its original position. So I'll press N to set everything back to 0. And I'm going to move my rig a little bit because, again, we have these arms overlapping. So I'm going to go in and make some changes to my controls. So I'm going to hit O. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my ARM FK controls, just like I did before. All right. I'm going to select all of them. So I'm going to go over here and select the left side. Let's deselect that control. Okay. It's pretty surgical, this process. Okay, I'm going to go into scale mode, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale these guys up. All right, so that they're easier to select when I'm in FK mode. Cool. All right, let's change the shape of the IK controls, right? Because I don't really like the wire box. I actually like having the just like an opaque box. Okay, so what I can do, we can see this is kind of overlapping a little bit, but what I can do here is this little GUI icon, I can actually select the shape of the control that I want. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to select a sphere because I like having a opaque object to select for the IK controls. And again, this is completely up to you. If you don't like what I'm doing, that's completely fine. You can style these any way that you want. And I'm going to do the same thing for my PV controls, right? Because I don't like these box icons for the PV controls either. So I'm going to turn these into spheres as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn those into spheres. And I'm going to scale them down just a little bit. Just to make them a little bit smaller. Cool. Nice. So if I go down here, all right, let me hit O. And let's jump out of that tweak state, right? The tweak controls shapes state. I'm going to look at these controls over here. So we have these overlapping controls. So we have this football roll control, and that's sitting right on top of, all right, yeah, I pressed N, and that set my rig back to 0. So that's sitting right on top of this FK, this football FK control. And I don't like that. So, right, because I don't like overlapping controls. So I'm going to lift this. I'm going to lift up this control. And I'm actually just going to keep the shape. I think the shape is fine. Okay, so let's select that. select this, and we'll just move those up. Great. So now those are much easier to select, and we don't have this overlapping issue. Cool. Let's jump out of the tweak state. Nice. I like this much more. Right? Easier to select those controls. Now, there is an issue here, and I don't know if you noticed it before, but if I go and box select this, we've actually selected two controls, okay? Now, we have this issue that this wrist control is promoted, and I don't want it to be promoted, okay? I mean, maybe you want it to be promoted so you can have a little bit of extra, control over where the hand goes. That's up to you, right? That's actually kind of cool because now we can do something like this. But in this case, I don't want this control to be there, right? Because if I wanted to box select my IK arm, I would actually select that control as well, and then we would get double transformation. So I want to remove this control. So to do that, I'm going to throw down a component underneath the auto rig builder. And I'm going to hit no in this case, right? Because we're using the base skeleton. Let's turn that on. And we're going to use a component called clean. So let's jump into the state. And we're not going to be able to see this here because I made this opaque object. But just bear with me. The control that we want to get rid of is the wrist control, okay? So if I just put this in, so star, right, that'll select the left and right side, and I put the name of the actual control in there. If I box select this now, we're only selecting the IK target. If I get rid of this and box select, we have those two controls again, okay? And that's bad. So let's put that back. And now we have a much cleaner rig to work with. This is a really nice node, this clean node. It's great. And if we go down here, this is much easier to work with. And we have our FK controls just readily available. And I can jump over to FK here, and we have all of our changes. Awesome.